I'm Paul Michaud. I'm the CEO of Proceve. Just to give you guys a bit of background, I've been developing software probably since before most of the people here at this event were born. I actually started developing in 1980 and built my first commercial applications in 1985 and my first startup in 1988. And I'm now on my fourth startup. Um, One of the folks that works with me has also had a similar run, sold a couple companies to Paul Allen and others. Uh, so we've got a pretty senior team. And the core problem that we're trying to tackle, as I mentioned, is we're looking to solve this problem. Annually, companies spend about $1.6 trillion a year, and about 500 billion of that is actually wasted. And we get about a 50% failure rate on projects. So as you can imagine, this is a project that if you're a CIO or a CTO, you're willing to spend a lot of money to actually fix for your company. And that's what we're trying to do. In the past lives for myself, I've actually held a lot of roles, and including as the global CTO for financial services at IBM. So I've seen some massive projects. I've seen massive project failures. I was just recently advising on a $1.5 billion software build that had lots of headaches. So this problem has never gone away. It's the same today as it was when I started writing software 40 years ago. And as I said, I finally got to the point where I said, okay, the existing tools out there aren't getting the job done. So we're going to go build it ourselves. And so uh, as I mentioned earlier, we're a completely self-funded startup. We are debating potentially taking some VC. We haven't decided yet. We actually don't need it to get product into market, but we may want to do something for growth to compete with our competitors who are spending a massive amount of money on sales and marketing. So what we're building basically is what we believe will be the first fully integrated DevOps platform. And as Jason mentioned, this has been a long journey for us. We actually started building the core IP 20 years ago, and are now finally in a position to use that IP to productize and bring to market. And we're looking to launch this summer. And we're on track to do that. We actually have the vast majority of the back end is done. It's quite a large code base. We're actually probably running around 5 million lines of code already and climbing. And right now we're looking to get the UI development done more quickly, and we're looking to hire a couple of UI developers. We're using a pretty cutting edge tech stack, which I'll sort of get later. But what we're actually trying to do is sort of tackle the core issues that cause these product failures in project management. If you look at the statistics, about 40% of project failure primary cause is actually related to requirements management, change management, and other task and project management related issues. And there's a ton of software out there. I'm sure everybody on here has used stuff, whether it's Asana, Monday.com, Jira. On the requirements side, there's JAMA. Years ago was IBM Requisite Pro, Blueprint Systems. There's a ton out there. And the problem is that none of them actually do what most companies need it to do. They're often a little bit too simplistic, but if I had to sort of boil it down to one particular shortcoming, they generally just don't manage the different artifacts that you need to handle a complex software project very well. And that organization of the various data and tasks is a big part of it. And so that's a key focus area for us in trying to actually put together a set of tooling that allows us to, one, capture a richer data set related to the entire software development lifecycle, but also to allow people to organize and manage that data much more effectively, whether that's a set of tasks, understanding the fact that if I have a task, I might also have a subtask, which also has subtasks and subtasks of that and so on. And something as obvious as that is currently not capable in virtually every project management software out there, except for maybe Microsoft Project and one or so others. So those types of things that seem kind of obvious, in all of my years doing this, Nobody is addressing it. So as I said, we sort of set out to build it. And what we're doing is actually building sort of three products at once. Uh, the core IP that we built is actually sort of what we've labeled here as PCase, which is actually a fully automated software development platform that allows us to push a button and basically generate our complete software stack from database layer all the way through web services to UI components at the push of a button. And we struggled with, after 20 years of R&D, how do we productize this and how do we monetize it? And the way we determined we're doing that is actually by building the front end project management tools that will allow people to design their software and the product and then interface it into the code generator. And then we actually generate that code targeted for a full SaaS multi-tenant platform, which we're sort of tagging for now as Proceve Blocks. And our own tool itself is actually built with the case tool and targeted for deployment onto the Blocks platform. And the platform and the tool have been designed to generate everything fully SaaS multi-tenant at scale. So in my background in financial markets, I've designed systems that handle 6 million transactions per second and super high performance stuff. I've built systems even 20 years ago that were handling 20, 50 petabytes of data. And we architected all of that into the design of the architecture and the platform. So when we launch, it was key that we need to be able to have an architecture in place to handle tens of millions of users simultaneously if necessary. So that's what we're working on. We have a really senior team. As I said, myself as founder, my co-founder Daniel, who worked with me on developing all the software automation tooling. Todd Werlius is former senior executive director of software engineering at Oracle. He's our primary UX person. And the most junior person on our team still has the better part of 20 years of experience, and all of us work full time on this. The market we're going after right now, actually, our core competitors are a whole bunch of unicorns. There's probably a dozen unicorn companies or multi-unicorn companies in the space. We're tackling people like AsanaMonday.com, for example. On the high end, it's Atlassian with Jira, etc. And the market is pretty enormous. Right now, just for project management and DevOps management software, it's about 25 billion right now. It's grown 5x over the last 4 years at about an annual growth rate of 43%. If you look at the bigger market that we're tackling with the Proceve Case and Proceve Blocks in our phase 2 rollout, that's actually about a $500 billion market that we're going after there. But right now our focus is on this initial $25 billion market. At the moment, as I said, we're looking to do things like manage, one of the big problems in our space is if you have Jira or you have Asana, you can manage tasks or issues or whatever. What people end up doing is they end up having to get 5, 10. I've seen companies with 20 different pieces of software in the DevOps space, and they have entire teams and whole other startups whose jobs to do nothing but integrate the data across these platforms, and that causes a lot of friction. What we've done is by leveraging our software automation tooling, it's allowing us to build a bigger product than anybody with half a brain would be smart to do. And people keep telling us, including Alex and Jason, that we're a little bit nuts to tackle something this big. But we're basically building all of the functionality that you would normally have in half a dozen products into one. And we can only do that because of the automation tooling we spent 20 years developing. So we're literally building, fully integrated issue management, test tracking, task management, project management, collaboration features, bug tracking, requirements management, and a whole bunch of other stuff along simultaneously with constantly evolving the code generation technology and the platform to eventually allow other developers to then build on top of our infrastructure. So as I said, we're looking at that. And just on the collaboration side, so if you think about it, everybody has to integrate things like Slack or Teams, et cetera. And we sort of said, this is one of the areas of friction. And we're literally building pretty much the entire functionality of Slack directly into the product. And so we've sort of fleshed that out. So in a nutshell, quickly, that's what we're doing. And as I said, right now we've got a pretty strong team. We've got good bandwidth and such on the back end. We're actually looking to expand our capabilities on the front end and looking for UI development. So this is kind of what we're looking for. I'm not a big fan of super fancy job descriptions. I think we all see too many of them, and I like to keep it pretty simple. At the end of the day, our stack is relatively cutting edge with a lot of what we do. On the front end, we're actually building with Svelte and SvelteKit. We've actually been monitoring this since it was one guy proposing it in 2017. We actually have tested a ton of UI front end technologies, including WebAssembly, etc. We're building HTML5, CSS3, JavaScript, and TypeScript. We're actually using a new pre-spec from the W3C on design tokens. We have a full-time designer on staff to do our graphic design, and we're using Figma and Balsamic to do the prototyping and high-fidelity mock-ups, which the developers will then use to guide their development. On the back end, which we're not expecting the people we're hiring now to do any work on, but they're welcome to if they have an interest. It's completely written in Go. We're actually using Postgres after testing more than 25 different databases. Turned out Postgres was the highest performing of the stuff that we played with, and we've paired that with Citus and Patroni to actually get scale in HA. We're actually looking to use Nats for messaging as an alternative to some of the ones that people are more familiar with. We did evaluate a lot of others as well. We run on Linux using Docker and Kubernetes, no surprise there. So basically what we're looking for is somebody that's super keen in the space that we're tackling. We're looking for somebody who can be a highly productive member of the team, who's passionate about developing front-end code. Interested in Svelte, obviously, would be great. And, not afraid to dig in and solve problems. We use a lot of bleeding edge tech, including Svelte itself, which only became 1.0 on SvelteKit a couple of months ago. So they hit 1.0 release in November, December, and we're already at, I think, 1.56 last week. So it's moving extremely fast, and the documentation is often lacking. We've always been able to figure out what to do with it and get it working. And the community is developing the tech pretty quickly. And that's true of a lot of our stuff on the front end and on the back end. Design tokens, as I said, isn't even a spec. We evaluated every design token management product on the market, rejected them all, and then wrote our own custom scripts to do it. So if that's the kind of thing that you're interested in, and this sounds of interest to you, we'd love to hear from you. Unlike a lot of the other companies, we don't have a super sophisticated infrastructure. So if you're interested, send a resume to careers@proceve.com, with a salary expectation. And if it looks like a match, we'll definitely reach out. And, so I don't know if is there any questions that anybody has? I've gone through stuff pretty quickly here. So, just let me know. And I don't know I guess we can, let's see, I guess we've got stuff here. I'm new to this platform like you guys, so let's see. Got one question on whether we're looking for partnerships or interested in nearshoring any of our IT resources or development. At this time, no. We actually already have a company that we're working with. We actually are a totally remote team. So right now, we actually have people. I actually have 6 people working out of Hungary. I've got our graphic designer in South Africa. I've got my co-founder in Houston. Our UX expert is based out of Seattle. And we really don't care. As I said in the job description, we don't care where somebody lives. We're looking for the best people, and we're used to working completely virtually. So the position, Michael, the position would be, we're looking specifically for the front end, right? We actually have a really strong back end team. That being said, if somebody has an interest in being a full stack and working on some of the back end code, we always welcome that. We have our back end guys helping out on front end stuff and vice versa. But our primary focus here is, really getting some UI bandwidth. We have about 75 screens to be able to develop pre-launch, and we're hoping to get that done in the next 4 to 6 months max. So we've just got a huge volume of UI to do. Got a question here on whether we have any internship opportunities. We might consider that. We actually have attempted to hire co-op students out of Waterloo in the past. To be honest, we haven't had a lot of luck with that. They generally have not had knowledge of the tech stack that we're working with. And to be really honest, when we hired, particularly with some of the more junior undergraduate students that we tried to hire as co-op, what they accomplished in 4 months would have taken one of my developers a week, and it hasn't worked that well. That being said, if somebody's interested, we would, and they look like they've got an interesting profile, then we would potentially consider that. So let's see. We do not currently have any openings in the UX area. We actually have, as I said, a full-time graphic designer that sort of specializes in that area. In addition, we actually have Todd Werlius, who was former senior executive director of software engineering, actually handles all of our UX. Todd's a UX specialist with 37 years of UX experience. So right now we're not really looking for UX. We're looking for people to roll up their sleeves and write code. Doesn't mean they don't get to participate and interact. Everybody gets to comment, including our backend guys, on our UX and design. So we're pretty collaborative every single day. But the core focus of the roles that we're looking for right now are UX developers. Okay, any others? Question are whether we're targeting any particular customers. No, not really. We're actually even specifically not even targeting just software project management, even though that's our initial focus. We're actually, specifically trying to make sure that it's applicable to all industries as a project management platform, not just a DevOps platform. That being said, we actually have extensive connections in certain industries, and particularly in financial services. And we've actually been using the technology on some consulting projects in the fintech sector. So I think that's all the questions that people had. So if anybody's interested in this, as I said, feel free to send me an email with your resume. Any questions, feel free to ping me on LinkedIn. I'm happy to chat, depending on my schedule. As I said, I'm also happy to, do any mentoring if people are interested. So looks like we're going to head back to the main stage here, guys. So